It is the 1 year anniversary of ChatGPT's release, which is a development that has certainly transformed our world and the world of AI and made OpenAI one of the most significant companies we're likely to see in our lifetime. And this kind of coincides with coming off perhaps the most insane week in the company's history. This where we saw the company nearly implode after its board fired the CEO, Sam Altman. As you are no doubt aware, in AI, a day is like a week and a week is like a year. And in the last week, after getting fired, Altman is now back as CEO of OpenAI. As part of his return, there's also a new board, though it sounds like Adam D'Angelo from Quora was on the previous board, is also returning. Co-founder Greg Brockman, who quit in protest of Altman's firing, is also back. And significantly, more details on the reason Altman was fired in the first place have started to emerge, though we don't have anything close to a full story yet. However, according to Reuters, before Altman was fired, quote, several staff researchers wrote a letter to the board of directors warning of a powerful AI discovery that they said could threaten humanity. Two people familiar with this topic reported this to Reuters. Now, this was one of many factors, it sounds like, that were involved in Altman's firing, according to these sources. And grievances also included concerns over how fast the company was commercializing advances in AI before understanding their consequences. Now, some of these concerns appear to revolve around a project at OpenAI called Q-Star. Q-Star is rumored to be an advanced model that the company developed, which can solve math problems that it hasn't seen before. Now, for some context here, within the AI research community, a model's ability to do math is seen as a really important technical milestone. It's also a potential indicator that an AI system is starting to resemble what we might describe as human intelligence. And this raises fears of artificial general intelligence among some people. These fears appear to have been significant enough to have prompted Altman's firing. The information reported on this saying, quote, a demo of the model circulated within OpenAI in recent weeks, and the pace of development alarmed some researchers focused on AI safety. Now, interestingly, Q-Star was created by two researchers on Ilya Sutskever's team. Sutskever was one of the leaders of the action to fire Altman. So, Paul, based on the context you gave in episode 73 and what you're seeing now, can you walk us through what's going on here and what might have prompted Altman's ouster?
First, I'll say, the Reuters and the information articles, which I think came out last Wednesday, I believe, is really all we have. There hasn't been much talked about. There was apparently an email internally at OpenAI and acknowledging this Q-Star program, but there's very little information about it. And so I want to start by going through a little bit more from the information, which is the media outlet, which, by the way, if you are fascinated by this stuff, pay the $159 a year, whatever it is, for the information. Like it's a fantastic source, and they seem to always get some great scoops. So it's one of the sources Mike and I read all the time to, kind of keep up on this stuff. So again, a lot of what they were having and what Reuters had was very similar. The information seemed to go a little bit deeper. And the thing that caught my attention was, if you recall from episode 73, if you listened to that episode where I kind of went into all of this, I kind of ended it with, what did Sam see in that room that was the potential breakthrough? So he referenced, that a couple weeks earlier, he had seen some major breakthrough, basically. So the information article starts off with one day before he was fired by OpenAI's board, Sam Altman alluded to a recent technical advance the company had made that allowed it to push the veil of ignorance back and the frontier of discovery forward. The cryptic remarks at the APEC CEO summit went largely unnoticed as the company descended into turmoil. The article went on to say, but some OpenAI employees believe Altman's comments referred to an innovation by the company's researchers earlier this year that would allow them to develop far more powerful AI models. A person familiar with the matter said. The technical breakthrough, as you said, Mike, spearheaded by OpenAI chief scientist Ilya Sutskever, raised concerns among some staff that the company didn't have proper safeguards in place to commercialize such advanced AI models. Now, part of the friction appears to be that Sam and Greg obviously were aware of this capability, and it sounds like maybe they were not only not stopping it, but they were potentially building some of these capabilities into GPT-5, and that the GPT's release was actually meant to accelerate some of what was being developed within this Q-Star program. So again, not just that they were not stopping it, but that they were racing forward to commercialize it. So then come back to the information article. Said in the following months, senior OpenAI researchers used the innovation to build systems that could solve basic math problems, a difficult task for existing AI models. Then it says two of the top researchers used Sutskever's work to build a model called Q-Star that was able to solve math problems that it hadn't seen before, an important technical milestone, and that a demo of this had circulated in recent weeks, and the pace of development alarmed some researchers. So again, the timing of this demo seems to align with Sam referencing something he had seen internally in that Apex CEO summit. Said Sutskever's team, this work had not been previously reported, and a concern inside the organization suggests that tensions within OpenAI about the pace of work will continue even after Altman was reinstated. In the months following the breakthrough, Sutskever, who also sat on OpenAI's board until he got fired or released from the board, he did not get fired, released from the board, appears to have had reservations about the technology. In July, and now this is where the timing is going to start becoming relevant to that stuff we're going to talk about today. So in July, if we recall from episode 73, Sutskever formed a team dedicated to limiting threats from AI systems vastly smarter than humans. On its webpage, the team says, while superintelligence seems far off, now we believe it could arrive this decade. Now that refers to the super alignment team that Sutskever formed. I think they announced it July 6th of this year. Sutskever's breakthroughs allowed OpenAI to overcome limitations on obtaining enough high-quality data to train new models. According to a person with knowledge, a major obstacle for developing next-generation models. The research involved using computer-generated rather than real-world data like text and images pulled from the internet to train models. Now, I'll pause here because if you're unfamiliar with the areas of research within the AI community, this may sound like some crazy thing. Synthetic data is being used by everyone. So every major research lab is not only talking about and researching, but using synthetic data. Tesla uses it to train their cars. Anthropic, we talked in an earlier episode about how Anthropic is using it and how Dario Amodei, the founder and CEO of Anthropic, thinks that it can be a key unlock. So synthetic data, while in this article isn't given the context of this is a widespread thing, it is in fact a widespread thing. So this paragraph isn't really anything I don't think significant to some advancement that OpenAI is making other people aren't. It went on to say for years, Sutskever had been working on ways to allow language models like GPT-4 to solve tasks that involved reasoning, like math and science problems. In 2021, he launched a project called GPT-0, a nod to DeepMind's AlphaZero program that could play chess, Go, and shogi. I boldfaced this one. The team hypothesized that giving language models more time and computing power to generate responses to questions could allow them to develop new academic breakthroughs. This time concept is going to become very important. We're going to hit on this again and again in the coming topics. So we'll come back to that. Lucas Kaiser, one of the co-authors of the groundbreaking Transformer research paper from Google in 2017, which describes an invention that paved the way for more sophisticated AI models, held a key role on the GPT-0 project. So again, you start to see all these interconnections between that, attention is all you need paper, the 8 or 9 authors of that paper and their, relevance to everything that's going on here. Among the techniques the team experimented with was a machine learning concept known as test time computation, which is meant to boost language models' problem-solving abilities. Okay, so this sounds really complicated. It's not. Basically means if you give these things more time, they show more reasoning capability. If you don't ask for like an instant response, like you go into ChatGPT, like write me an article, write me an email, whatever, it just does it instinctually. Like it just takes its data and goes. If you ask it to solve a more complex like story problem, it's not very good at it because it just immediately does something based on its training data. What they're saying here is if you give it more time to think and to work through reasoning capabilities, it actually seems to do it. And so that's this idea of this test time computation. Again, we're going to come back around to this topic in a couple minutes. So earlier this year, Sutska and his team discovered a variation of this test time computation method that prompted far greater results in their efforts to train more sophisticated models. Now, this to me is where it starts to get interesting. This is where you start to see something different. So the thing I thought was a little misleading, or that people I saw on social media kind of latch onto right away, was this Q star thing, and as though it was like on its own some groundbreaking thing. The general belief is that the Q star is referencing Q learning, which is actually a known form of reinforcement learning in AI research and development. So it's this idea that, so I actually asked ChatGPT, I'd never heard of Q learning. So I asked ChatGPT for an explanation, and I went and kind of verified the definition on Google. But what ChatGPT said was it's a key algorithm in AI that helps machines learn optimal behaviors through trial and error, making it crucial for the development of autonomous systems and decision making. Its simplicity combined with its power has made it a staple of AI research and applications. So again, Q learning, which seems to be the origin of the name of Q star, isn't new. As a matter of fact, Jan LeCun, who we often talk about, who runs the research lab at Facebook and Meta, he tweeted, "Please ignore the deluge of complete nonsense about Q star. One of the main challenges to improve language models' reliability is to replace," this gets technical, "autoregressive token prediction with planning," meaning it's just predicting the next token or next word in a sequence. And you're trying to improve that by giving these things planning capabilities. He says pretty much every top lab, FAIR, which is Facebook's, DeepMind, OpenAI, etc., is working on that, and some have already published ideas and results. It is likely that Q star is OpenAI's attempts at planning. They pretty much hired Noam Brown to work on that. And then he also added, "Note, I've been advocating for deep learning architecture capable of planning since 2016. Now, one other interesting thing, real quick, I will share to understand this Q learning concept. It was Thanksgiving week. I think this was Wednesday. And so I said to ChatGPT, explain it to, how can I explain Q learning to my family at Thanksgiving dinner? I actually thought this was pretty good. So it said, it can be fun and engaging experience, blah, blah, blah. So it said, we'll use a turkey analogy. Imagine you're trying to cook the perfect Thanksgiving turkey. You have a variety of actions to choose from: oven temperature, how often to baste, what seasonings to use. Each combination of these actions can lead to a different result: a delicious turkey, a dry turkey, or maybe even a burnt one. So in Q learning, the AI learns from trial and error. It learns from mistakes. So it said, just like when you first learn to cook, you might make mistakes. Maybe the turkey gets overcooked or it's not seasoned enough, but with each attempt, you learn a little more about what works and what doesn't. So then the Q learning has a quality score that basically applies a quality score to each output in essence. So the Q stands for quality of each action you take. Think of it as a score for each decision you make while cooking. A high score means a great tasting turkey. A low score means you might need to order a pizza. So basically, Q learning is a way for the AI to learn from its actions through trial and error, and then kind of remember what led to a greater Q score in essence. So I think, at a high level, that's the key here. Now, I want to go back to the Noam Brown reference, because I think this is actually a really key aspect of everything. So if we recall, on July 5th of this year, that's when Ilya and Jan Leike introduced super alignment team at OpenAI. So July 5th. On July 6th, Noam Brown announced he was joining OpenAI. Now I'm going to go to the tweet thread, and we'll put this in the show notes, when Noam Brown announced this. And I'm going to kind of stress a couple of key points here. So he announced, "I am thrilled to share that I have joined OpenAI." Now, he was previously at Meta. I'll get to that in a minute. So he came from the Meta research lab under Jan LeCun. So he worked for Jan LeCun. So it said, "For years, I have researched AI self-play and reasoning." You're going to hear the word reasoning a lot in games like poker and diplomacy. "I'll now investigate how to make these methods truly general." artificial general intelligence. Remember, the term general is a meaningful word here. If successful, we may one day see large language models that are 1,000 times better than GPT-4. I'm going to stop here and say Noam Brown didn't leave Meta unless he knew OpenAI was working on this stuff and that there was a path to apply his research immediately. He's not leaving to go do this 3 to 5 years from now. So, timing wise, whatever this Q Star program is, whatever the breakthrough is, probably happened earlier in 2023. That led to some major advancements and the creation of the super alignment team. So, again, they didn't create the super alignment team overnight. So, you probably realized there was some breakthrough. The need for the super alignment team emerged, and they bring in Noam Brown to work on this exact thing. So Noam goes on to say in 2016, AlphaGo beat Lee Sedol in a milestone for AI. Mike and I wrote about this in our book, Marketing Artificial Intelligence. But the key to that was AI's ability to ponder. Again, go back to the time idea, to ponder for approximately 1 minute before each move. How much did that improve it? For AlphaGo Zero, it's the equivalent of scaling pre-training 100,000x. What that means is the model improved its quality of output, its prediction 100,000x by not taking the move immediately, instinctually, based on its data, but actually pondering the move, reasoning through what to do. He goes on to say, also in 2016, I observed a similar phenomenon in poker. That insight led to our Libratus poker AI. I don't know if I'm saying that right, that beat top humans for the first time. Andy Jones investigated the train to time, test time, compute trade off in detail in a paper. Then I went on to say all those prior methods are specific to the game, but here's the key. But if we can discover a general version, the benefits could be huge. Yes, inference may be 1,000 times slower. That means coming up with the output, like the time it takes to come up with the output, maybe 1,000 times slower and more costly. But what inference cost would we pay for a new cancer drug or a proof of the Riemann hypothesis? Improved capabilities are always risky. Super alignment team was built the day before. Improved capabilities are always risky, but if this research succeeds, it could be valuable for safety research as well. Imagine being able to spend $1 million on inference to see what a more capable future model might look like. It would give us a warning that we otherwise lack. So when I started kind of connecting that, and I'll put in the show notes, we wrote about Gnome in February 1st of this year. I wrote a blog post called Meta AI Cicero provides a glimpse into the future of human-machine collaboration, where it talked about some of Gnome's research. And then we also talked about that in a tweet, in an episode earlier this year. So when we start to consider all of this, we get beyond just the Q learning thing and we start looking at everything else that was going on, who was being hired. Keep in mind Andrej Karpathy, who we're going to talk about next. He rejoined OpenAI in February of this year. So I think they already were making these breakthroughs by February of 2023. So what could OpenAI be working on that could cause so much commotion? And what does the hiring of Noam Brown and even earlier than that, Andrej Karpathy, and their work potentially tell us?